Hello, it's Elaina Strongbow from SodaTutorials.com, Elena's main game name, and today I'm actually in the game. I'm going to do a little bit of different. Most of the time I'm making video tutorials for Shroud of the Avatar, a game that I've been playing since about July of August of 2016. There's a special event in that time, around that time period that drove me into the game. But what I'm going to do here is actually start doing a couple of just reviews of the game, where it's at, my general feelings on it, and where I think, whether there's improvements or things that I like. So I'm going to break it up into a couple of different parts. I'm not sure how long each section is going to be, but I'll go through it and make it up. I just don't want to sit down and actually do a 3-hour video and expect that someone's going to watch it. So I want to try and keep it to around 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes each, and just chunk it up as I go through. So this is going to be a multi-part. The number of parts will be determined. But this is definitely the first part on it. So, if you're not familiar with it, Shroud of the Avatar, Forsaken Virtues, is a Richard Garriott game. Richard Garriott of Ultima, the Ultima Onlines, Tabula Rasa, a couple of different games that have been out there. It's got a lot of anticipation by a lot of people, a lot of nostalgic people, especially if you are, if you're an Ultima fan or an Ultima Online fan, looking for that game that kind of fits in that same mold. I was in Ultima Online. I played the Ultima games, but I was an Ultima Online fan for about 10 years. Played on the Great Lake Shard, very heavy into the game, loved it. Loved it from the first time I picked it up because I literally was sat into the world, and then I'm like, well, now what do I do? And it didn't click on me. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, go here, do this, do this, do this. It was a game that was really much, you're in the world, you're living, go live. How do you want to live? Well, that's however you wanted to. If you wanted to be a swashbuckling fighter person, go off and do that. If you want to be a mage and do stuff, go and do that. You want to join a guild and participate in guild fights, okay. You just want to be a merchant. You want to craft things and make things for people and sell stuff and just make your way in commerce. You could do all those different things. So that was a great feeling. And when Ultima kind of was in its, I don't want to say it's still running. So if you want to play Ultima Online, it's there. It's no longer part of, I think, directly of EA at this point, or it's not directly involvement from Richard Garriott. But it got beyond a point where it just it kind of lost its field, and there was always a gap in that in me, kind of in games I play. I just play kind of games and not be too heavily involved. I know when I'm heavily involved, it's the amount of hours and the amount of fun I have going into that. So when I heard back in 2013, yes, 4 years ago, over 4 years ago, that Richard Garriott was pulling together a company and a troop of people to develop Shroud of the Avatar, I was really interested. I was interested right off the start. So a couple things different about it. I mean, one, it does have a backstory around it, but his endeavor was to do this as a crowd-funded game, meaning that he was going to have he started off with a Kickstarter campaign on it, and then has been funding it all along. I think the original intention was to deliver it out within a 2-year window. We're now 4 years out, and it's not delivered yet. I will tell you that it's mostly delivered. They are in the final stages of delivering the game, and by that I mean polishing. The major things are in. The major graphics and stuff are in there, the storylines, but there's a lot of polish. So uncloning some scenes, making sure they're kind of unique, working on performance. Performance continues to be a thing that goes up and down in the game itself. Things like that. Things to get it so it's kind of ready to ship and call it final. So it's an exciting time. It is 4 years out, but it's an exciting time. Now, personally, I said I backed the project as a Kickstarter backer back in 2013. That also meant that I had access to the original releases as they came out. This past, I think it was at the end of July, was the 44th consecutive monthly release of the game. So every month for the last 44 months, they have been hitting out, putting releases that are playable or reachable to people to get in and to play. And the game has progressed. It was really, really simple and basic, like a small area and stuff and mechanic stuff earlier on. It wasn't until July of last year that the game went to persistence. And what they meant was they wiped the world one final time, and then the data in the world, so your characters, this and that, would persist from then on, with a commitment that they would not wipe the world again. And they're living up to that. So back in July they did that, and it was also the introduction of the land rush. People who had been backing into the game were able to get different types of housing options. And depending on when you backed and how much you backed, there was a land rush as far as, okay, these block of people go at this time, this time, this time. If you're ever playing the Ultimate games, you know that housing is a key aspect of the economy and the play of it. Housing from the perspective of, if you want to be a person that just has a cool house out by somewhere near, you can go mining. Well, then you want to go find something like, we call them mining shacks in Ultima. You want to have a house out there. If you want to be a commerce, you want to have vendors and be able to sell stuff, well, you want to be in the right cities, on the main road, in the right spots. So land rush was really important because it established kind of the basics of the economy and for what people do. And there's been a lot of shuffling and shifting and stuff. People have been trading up and selling. So the story is, that was a big turning point. So that's where I actually became involved. Somewhere in there, I don't know what the exact number is. I think I'm coming on 2,000-ish hours for over the last year or so. It's actually been a year now that have been committed into the game and trying to figure out. It's like 1,500 to 2,000 hours in there. So a lot of gameplay. A lot of activities involves character development, selling. I've been making video tutorials. I'm coming on 200 different tutorials for it. So I've got a lot of experience into the game. I'm not the super best players out there. There's plenty of guys out there who understand the mechanics even better than I and can whoop me in a PvP match and whatever else, or kill solo dragons and stuff. But I have enough of a basis to understand what I'm doing and what's going on. So it's exciting. It's exciting with that in the next couple of months there isn't a hard month date. It's in 2017 that they will go to a final release. And I just thought it's a really good time to talk about the game and said hit upon it. So here's what I'm going to talk about in this or in subsequent videos at all. I'm looking at my little cheat sheets. I got little post-it notes here. I want to kind of approach it. I want to talk just a tad about the story and how the game comes together and what this episode is. And yes, there are multiple episodes. I want to talk about the graphics, kind of my opinions on it and whatnot. Performance continues to be a struggle and something that they're working on, so I do want to touch on that. I want to talk about PvE and PvP. I want to talk about... make sure I've got that one right. Crafting. I can barely read my writing here. Crafting. I want to talk about the crafting system, what that involves. I want to talk about the economy. So you're making things you want to sell. How do you make money in this game? How do you sit there and fit into the world? I do want to talk about the social aspects, how you get involved, what the guilds look like, and what you can do in there. We're going to spend a little bit of time on housing, and it's a little bit different than what was in UO, but it has some of the same kind of feelings of it, some things, familiarities with it. We're going to talk about purchasing the game and costs of the game and what's in the add-on story. Is it pay to win or not? And then just kind of wrap it up with an overall approach. So, first thing, Tracy Hickman and Rich Garrett penned a book, Shroud of the Avatar, Sword of Midras Ruins, I think is the actual book name. It's out there. If you read that book, you got a lot of the basis of the story. So there was a cataclysm. There was some major events that occurred inside the world, and it's now 400 years later, and there's these prophecies that are starting to come true. And you come into the game as an avatar, someone, they call you an outlander, that comes into the game, and you have a story to progress through. There are 3 major quests that kind of drive through this, and then there's tons of minor quests inside of the games that allow you to gain experience and do that. But in the end of it all, once you go through that, you're still left with, okay, I'm here, what do I do? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of character I want to be? You do have the option to make your own story in the game. Now me, I'm a social person in the game. I've worked in, I've decided that I'm going to be a very advanced character, and I want to be able to help out in situations, be able to hold my own, be supportive with groups and all that. I do a lot of tutorial videos, as I stated, so I want to be there to answer questions, play with new players, do a lot of stuff. That's the role that I want to be in here. In addition to that, part of that is actually doing anything I can to help them out. So I think crafting is a big part of my story, my personal story, because I want to be able to make things not only for myself, but for new players and for other players out there. I've got to make some coin. Got to have coin to exist in here, so it's not a bad thing to have in there. So I do pay attention to the crafting side, and it's just, that's my story and how I'm going to be in this game. I'm really happy that I can do that. I can decide what I want to do. if you are a person that wants to come in and play a game and have you run through, there is a single player offline mode kind of that drives you through the story you can play. The game does come in an offline mode, kind of like your run through it. I have not sat down and played through it, so I can't actually specifically hit on that one. I've only been playing on the online modes and interacting with the worlds. But even the online modes has a lot of differentiators. If you think about online, you can, if you think about, in Ultima there were shards. So I played in the Great Lakes Shard, there is the Pacifica Shard, the Sonoma Shard, all these different ones that are out there. There are no shards, there is multiplayer. One world. We're all in the same sandbox. So there's no splitting between that, whether you're in Europe, in Asia, wherever you're at. We all play in the same multiplayer. Now, given that, that means if you have a bunch of people, you could end up being in an area that you are competing for things. There is a friends online mode that allows you to play. Basically, you can still interact with the sandbox, but you don't see the other people unless you have a party. You can get together a party of people. You can all play, and then you're all kind of in your own world, but you're still connected. So, and what I mean by that is if you go in and, let's say I have my house and I move a bush from here to there. If someone who's in multiplayer is at my house looking at that bush, it would move. So you're still affecting the same sandbox. It's just that it's kind of shielded out the other players. So if you go into a scene where, like right now I'm in this troll scene here, there's a troll in there in the background. Only me and my party is going to see that. So it helps out and kind of balances. Sometimes you want to work alone, maybe you're resource gathering or you're troll farming as I'd be here. Or you can play multiplayer where everybody can do that. It's great. You can also communicate back and forth, whether you're in one mode or the other. So your friends, your guildmates can still communicate with you. So it's a great balance between it. I do like that aspect of it. 9 times out of 10, I play in multiplayer because I want to help out people. So that's just where I want to be. It's the most social of them all. But even in the full multiplayer mode, they have done some parts where they are instancing where you go into. Let's say I go down into a mine, and I'm in that mine. I want to go for, go collect some ore and get some metal and ingots and all that stuff. The mine can be instanced. So I go in there, it's only me. If someone else comes behind me and goes in that same mine, they're in their own private instance of it. So never the two shall meet. Unless you're in a party. If you're in a party, then 2 people or up to 8 people can go together and get in there. So the story still is, it's really, they've set up a lot of mechanics to really facilitate that. But in the end, I think the success of being happy with this game really depends on your ability to write your own story. I think they've hit that on there. I look at it going, could I write mine? And I'm like, yeah, you know what, I can. I don't want to say it's all roses and peaches and all happiness and unicorns and rainbows and stuff like that. It hasn't been released yet, so there are things they have to work out. Even when they release it, if you harken back to the original Ultima when it came out, Ultima developed as it went along, and I thought that was a great aspect of it. Whether it was new lands, new features, when they added in factions and stuff, it just was really cool as they progressed it out. Like town sieges, they had like in Intrinsic, they had Junor, the big lich guy. Everybody go in there and fight on him and stuff. It was really cool as the game progressed. So I think they've got a great start. It all depends now on the execution as they kind of go out. I made mention about it being an episode. Forsaken Values is the first episode. Once it's released, then they're going to be working on and going toward the second episode. And there's 5 planned episodes. While they'd like to say it's a yearly release cycle between it, I'm not sure if it's going to be to be that. And I think part of that is we're kind of, this was supposed to be a 2-year release and it's 4. If they're planning 1, what is it going to be? 2? Part of that is, part of that that can hold true, has some truth to that, and then there's some not. In this one, they really were developing the game from scratch, building it, and they had a lot to contend with. When you're going from building something from scratch to expanding it, you don't have to contend with a lot of mechanics, but you do have to contend with new features and new things you want to add into it. So I'm not sure. So I think every episode, if it was something that's coming out every year to 2 years, I think that's what you can kind of plan on. So I think that's a great start from where they're going and see where the story lies on that. I've been through the quests. They haven't been fully polished. The mechanics are all there. It's great. I went through it. It kind of tied me to the book on there. But you know what? It's not something that's like, wow, the game is everything I expected because of that story. If you're really into the story part of it and the actual backstory and drawing you in and understanding it, it's still not there yet. I think that's something that has to come up, and I think they're gonna have to grow that. And it may be just somewhat simply on the mechanics of it. It may be some of the underlying stories on it. Some of I think like some of the quests and some of it just feels a little bit disconnected. I take another game like Arcade. I was first introduced to that about 2 months ago. And as soon as I started it rolled me through quests and rolled me through how, my story, my character, when I became a dwarf, why I became a dwarf, and rolled me through it. And I thought that was really good how it kind of just pulled me in. And then it kind of lets you go and says, go go off and be yourself. I think they'll get there. I am just not give it on an A through F scale, kind of a grammar school scale. I give it in the B minus right now. And that's just because of where the game's at. We'll see how the final polish is. I also have to judge that on the new players. When we watch new players come into the game, how well are they led along to do that? And can they they really understand what's happening? Are they led through it? Are they really just kind of fumbling around? I still see that they're fumbling around. I know they are because they're asking us, the players, the community, questions, and a lot of questions. So that's good. We get a community there to support them, but that also means there may be there's some lacking that's in there from a gaming perspective. So, all right, so that's about story. So I think story's good. I think the best part about the story is the fact that at the end, all the quests are done. You know why you're here. You got some mechanics. The story is yours to make. I'll leave you with one aspect of it. I have a friend that streams out there on Twitch. His name is Arius. In game, he's Arius Coilmore. In the YouTube videos, you'll see a Coilmore Wands or Arius Coil. I think it's under Coilmore Wands. I did a video just on his. Fantastic person, great streamer. Love watching him and I play around a game with him a lot. One of the things I really liked and I really admire is that he decided that he wants to be an elf in the game. He wants to be an elf. He wants to live like an elf. He wants to be he wants to follow tenets that he believes are part of his character. He wants to be a wand maker. He wants to sell and make the finest wands in the game. And you know what? I've watched him, and while he's progressing on it, that's what he's doing. He has a shop that is literally a workshop, a wand shop. He sells things that are normal things. People can go to a vendor and buy stuff, but he also has stories and stuff written so people can come to him and request, I would like this kind of wand with this kind of stuff, or a staff. And he will sit there and craft these, and whether they have certificates of authenticity and stuff, he really puts the effort into being that character. I've never seen him without his elfin wear. He's an elf, has an elf mask and elven stuff. He's always in character, even to the point where he doesn't like to kill the animals. He has spells that most of the time pushes animals away so he doesn't have to kill them, which I think is great. He doesn't like to eat meat, so he eats vegetarian stuff in the game. It's just I really admire him that he does that, but I really admire the fact that he can do that in the game. Given the number of resources we have, and there's a finite set of resources of what we can do, as the game progresses, I think the ability to do that more and more is going to be there. So I think that's a good sign for the story. Beyond all the basics, the kind of the stuff that leads you into the game. So, all right. So second thing is I want to hit upon the graphics. I mean, what we're looking at right now is actually the character. I'm in a scene. If you played Ultima Online, you had the big map, and you run around. And you remember there was zones, like area zones. You'd cross over a boundary, and there was one server would take over it, but it was one unified map. And you may go down into a dungeon or whatever else, but it was a map. So the lands of Britannia were the lands of Britannia, and that was it. I'm sitting in a very kind of detailed scene here. This is actually, it's called the Snowy Mountains Road Encounter. There's a set of trolls that are in between a pass, and if you kind of go through there, they'll grab you and pull you into this counter. Now I can simply run out of this counter. If I look at it, there's an exit out that end past that tree where my cursor is, and there's an exit over there. So I mean, I think the graphics overall is actually done really well. And if I look at my settings on this, what I've done, I'm sitting pretty much in 920, 1080. I've got fantastic settings up, so I basically put the highest settings on it that are in the game right now. If you look at it, as they develop pieces, they're getting a lot of detail. There's still some. If you look at the wolf helmet there, the bottom of it's kind of cut off. That looks kind of it's a little bit hokey, but I look at the outfit that's been patterned. I think, okay, that's been really good. Tree swaying and stuff. So this is all, if you can physically get to it, you can get to it. There is a perimeter, an end that will take you out of this specific scene. But you look at it, it's got a great little. They've gone in. They've got water flowing down there. I think there's more of a waterfall-y thing. There's the waterfall that's in there. Actually, I'll do that over here. I said we got the troll characters here. Now, if I'm going to go over there, I'm going to have to actually fight them. So I'll talk while I'm going through this. This is a troll. I mean, and this is a tougher character in this game. So if you're going to come over here and fight on him, you better be prepared to fight on him. I've gotten good at these guys. So he's going to chuck a big boulder at me because he's a troll and that's what he likes to do. He said he knocked me on my bum. Now he's going to come over and try and beat on me, which he just did. But if you look at the graphics on it, I mean, I'm looking at it going, this is pretty good. Is it the best one that's out there? No, but it's like I was with Ultima. I was like, I was okay with the overhead, as long as the play was fun. I was happy with it. So you can tell I'm doing different. Oh, he kicked me down there. You can tell I'm doing different spells here. Some of it I'm just shooting with an arrow. Oh, he's gonna rock me again. Oh, and he knocked me down. Now, when they knock me down, he'll smack me there. He may confuse me, so my key bindings get all kind of screwed up. But if I look at all these spells I'm casting off, they've been improving these things, so you get like a lot better look at all of it. And I just think they've done a pretty good job with this. They've got a bunch of, not a bunch, they've got a few people that are, animation people that are working on the actual models and stuff for it. They've got scene designers that are designing the scenes like the ones we're seeing right now. You tell this guy's got, I'm going to go on auto attack here. Maybe kill him off a little bit quicker. So I'm casting a bunch of spells, stone arrows, regular arrows. He's trying to get away from me, but I'm not going to let him. I've got like this, oh, look at he got me there. Shoot. Oh, he almost got me. I'm going to cast some spells to get my health back up. I know what I'm actually doing is I'm trying to stand around him so he doesn't smack me as much. He's almost down. There he goes, and he's dead. So, just kind of a view on it. I think it's just fun seeing that. You'll see like some of the grass is swaying and all this stuff. There's I think a couple of polar bears that are up here. There's like one up here, I think. Where is he at? There he is. This is just a polar bear that's been in this scene. I'll be able to take him down fairly quickly. Oh, I've got this great spell. I like showing this one because it just shows off some of the animation. We have one called Corpse Explosion that blows up the corpse and any of the enemies around it get damaged by it. I just think it looks really cool when they do it. I just think that's great how that comes out. Is it the most cutting edge graphics? No, it's not. It's very good, but I don't think it's like the cutting edge that I've seen in other games. If you look over here, I've got there's some ore on the wall here. If I want to, I can come over here and put my pickaxe down there and I'll chop away at it. Kind of like in the old UO days, you had that, but there was never something physically there. You kind of like doing it in a spot. Here they've got nodes on the wall or on the floor that you can see, and when you hit it, basically I can take these pieces, and that piece goes away, and it'll respawn at some point later. Icicles hanging down, or these coming off the mine here. Trees down here. In the game, wood is resources. So you look at this. I may get attacked down here. I hear a bear. Like this is a tree. I can chop it down. This bear may get mad at me over here. Don't get me, Mr. Bear. So I'm chopping away at this tree. It's reddish. I can tell it's a dead one. And timber. So they've done if you've been in the game at first, the scenes were all kind of static and not that much. But they've been adding so much more in with like motion and whatnot. So I thought they've really done a pretty good job on the graphics. This is, I think, it's good. It's believable. And in the end, I play Arcade, and Arcade is very, very cartoonish in a sense. So, you tell I'm actually getting done damage because I was in the cold water there. You tell I've been frozen like this. So those numbers popping off my body there. 10, 10 here. I like that. I like when it does it. It pays attention. So it knows that I'm in cold water and I should be getting hurt. Oops, I'm popping out of the scene. Don't want to do that. At least not yet. So anyways, graphics pretty cool. Actually, let's pop up there. I do want to talk about the overall map as far as the graphics. So this is a particular scene with a finite boundary that I'm working inside of. Now, outside of that, there's what we call the overland map, kind of the big world. And you go on the overland map, you walk around it, and you can go from instance area to instance area, like a town or whatnot. It's kind of weird because it introduces things like this, a load scene. So I'm actually loading in a new part of the world. That kind of breaks it. You don't get that like in a UO type thing. But on the other hand, what it does, it allows me to incorporate a bigger world. Because if things are instanced inside of it, so while I can put a new dungeon in, I don't have to add or change onto this map. And this is actually the entire map of it right now for episode 1. Let me get this out there and make it a little bit bigger. This is the entire instance. So I'm literally down here. If you played Ultima of the Brittanies, this is Central Brit, some of the main stuff. This up here is the Hidden Vale where the original landmass was and where people started out up here in Owl's Head and stuff. So this is it. So as I travel, I can travel along the overworld map, but I can go to different towns in different locations. Like this is Sawtooth Thicket. It's a woods that has enemies and stuff and whatnot. There's rivers, there's volcanoes, there's passes with all kinds of nasties in it. And basically you can walk up the map. Here's the Central Brittany and all this. Here's Crossroads. This is actually the town that I live in. My main character lives in. So, if I want to go there, I can sit there and say I can travel the overland map to get there. But when I want to go into an area, I zone into it. So it has instances, but you have the overland and then you have like where you go into it for your instances. So I'm walking up here and I'm going to go up to a road here. You travel slower if you're not on a road. So once you get on the road, then you start buzzing along. You can zoom in and out. I said the details they've been adding in on the map, I think it looks really cool. There are player-owned towns. There are towns like the NPC towns, where people can go to, but there are also player-owned towns. These are player-owned towns. You can tell this one's got a couple houses while this one has one. Basically, this one has more properties in it that have been allocated. This one has fewer. Now, over here we see a bandit. Now, this is, once again, it's basically considered a random encounter. Think it that way. So if I walk by him, he'll chase me down. There's a scene in there. It's a smaller scene, but it's got a bunch of resources. Got a bunch of bandits you can go through and kill the people on there, and go through it. I'm just gonna avoid it. I want to pop down here, maybe pop into another. I want to pop into South Midmere. Now let's go pop into one of the towns. And you see, there's a couple of people on the road here. There's Wrestling Majuri, Carpe Noctem, Seize the Night. And he's going to run around because he didn't want to hit that bandit over there. So he's like me, running around. Those guys are most of them pretty easy. You just don't want to deal with it. It's just, if you're a little bit more up in character level, you don't want to have to deal with it. Let's see. I'm going to go up over this bridge. I'm still traveling up. You can barely see it on this map. I'm here. I'm traveling up. I just know my way. I don't have to have the map up. But you see the map's kind of integrated now, or you can actually see where you're going on here. All these little points like this, these little totem poles tell you how strong an area is. 1 skull to 5 skull, 5 being the hardest. There's 1 skull on here. that middle one that's in there. So you can get a get a judgment on how tough an area is. If I look here, there's a whole story behind the Kabbalists that are coming in, and they're kind of like the anti-virtues. You can have devotionals in your town, and that's what that little stream of smoke is right there. You can see that right there, that this town has a devotional where you can get a buff. A devotional of courage gives you strength. But the Kabbalists will sometimes come in and attack the town. So there's a siege. So basically, instead of you go into this town, instead of going into the town, you go into a siege for a bunch of stuff. You can, a lot of higher level people you can kill through that. You can run through it if you want to. There's a way to get through it if you're a newer character, but a lot of cooler things to go in there and fight, and chance to get good loot and all that kind of fun stuff. That comes up and appears based upon the lunar cycles. And there is a lunar cycle. You can see these kind of stars that are up here, and there are tools to help you read those. And if you understand it well enough, you can understand when those Kabbalists are going to appear and at what towns. Once again, here's another one. You can tell the little streams have got devotion also. It's under attack as well. This is one of those passes. You see, I like looking at it from the you're at a very high level view of this. If you look at it, this is like the whatchamacallit, the volcano that was on the map over here. I think it's down in here. Well, this is Nightshade Pass. You see there's some huge structure here and a huge lake. So I have the option to enter into this area, which I'm going to. So I'm going to go back from the overworld map down into it. Once again, cutscenes are pretty too. I like the idea. I like the idea of being able to travel around, get to where you want, then go into it and get into super detail, kind of like you go from the macro level to the micro level on it. And even inside of there are areas in here that are, you're in the same zone area, you play around with it, but there's that big structure, which is a huge dungeon. Well, you can zone into that one. It goes even one step further in it. So look, now I'm on a map that's a little bit different. There's that big lake that was over there. I may run into some baddies along the way here as the graphics fill in. There's some guys here, which I'll go ahead and shoot them. Ah, he's gone. So this is all green areas. Said I'm a stronger level character, so I mean the fact that I'm getting them, don't be like it's all like this. For some of the new characters, this would actually be very tough. I'll show you that corpse explosion where I can blow up and... So I've got him down. I can do the same thing here. So they're dead. I mean, you can, like everything else, you can interact with them, and I've got one up here. I can take his loot and whatnot. There's our trees that can be foraged, the brown ones there. Different mobs, different monsters attack each other. So you got a wolf that's just killed a stag, eventually killed a bunny. Now he's going to try and attack me too, and he just becomes part of the other food chain here. There he goes. Outside of mining, you got wood, you got cotton you can grab out. There's resources. There's some bears, a will-o-wisp. Yeah, horses. It's really just pretty. It's a beautiful scene. I actually, out of all the scenes in the game, this is one that I actually like the most. I think, just from the, it's just epic. It looks huge. You can go all around this lake and go fishing if you want to. Said it's just they spent a lot of time on the areas that they've actually that's not a clone and are unique. Here's that super structure we had seen before, and as you can tell, it's massive. Hey, mallard duck. Oh, they killed it. I'm actually gonna get that. I need some duck meat. Anyways, I can talk about this. You can see this huge structure. It's here that you saw from the overland map is out here. Oh, yeah, there goes Mr. Wolf. So, yeah, I said there's over there, that cotton bush with the white on it is one that you can actually forage and get some cotton off of. There's another troll over here. We're going to try and avoid him. I don't need to fight him. We've already seen I can beat a troll. But I could actually go up to this cotton bush and take out my little sickle and just go through that. So I can get raw cotton that can be used out there. I mean, look at this. It's actually pretty darn impressive how it's been done. And as they add more and more scenes into it and refine the scenes, even I think even the better. I'll run up here and actually pop up to one of the things where I can come up on top. So I said this is pretty. There's a mage that's going to attack me, shooting fireballs at me. I'm on fire. Help! I'm on fire. So yeah. So let's go on up here. You can tell I'm going up through the structure. Eventually, I'm going to get up to like one of the big doors, and I can zone into the big area, the big dungeon, and whatnot. I think I can go down to here. Maybe able to get myself in here really quickly. Maybe some bad dudes here, but they're not going to hurt me that much. So I'm going to get out of the way. They may come up with me. So I'm going to walk out on one of the walls on here. There's a guy there. He's just a regular. He stunned me a bit. But when I get up here, it's just kind of just hit the epic size of this. Am I getting shot? No, I got a bleeding wound there. So yeah, I look at the graphics as not. Is that the best detail? Can it drive my 1080p, my 1080 GTX 1080 card and push it to the limits? I look at it, does it instill enough realism in the game for me? And I really like what they've done. I said I'm all happy with that. So, yeah. So whether it's in the towns or whether it's in the areas of the overland map, I think they've done a really good job, and I think it's good to focus on that. I think it's something they're going to refine, and just get better and better over time. So, once again, on the elementary scale, A through F, I definitely give them into the B plus. The B plus, maybe scooting into the A minus on this. I said I really like this. This is a part of the game that I've been content with. So story, graphics. Let me do one more in here. And the reason I want to include this one, I want to talk about performance, because it's a big aspect of the game, is how well does it perform. Now, just for level setting here, I have a newer laptop that I bought at the end of last year. So plug for Asus. I bought one of their Republic of Gamers laptops, a Strix. It's not a high-end one. This I thought it was a GT502 VM, I think it is. Big thing is, later i7 processor. It's got a 1060 6GB NVIDIA card in there. It's full on SSD. It's got those the really little SSD cards for super fast loading. It should be able to handle this and handle it. Now, I'm running it on the fastest settings on here. Another player that's out there, he just Marquis Dragon. He actually got one of the Titan, the NVIDIA Titan XPs, the $1,500 super card, and he's got a big honking machine to hold off on it. There are still performance problems in the game, and it really gets down to they're working on the mechanics on how to handle the assets in the game. Now, if you look at this, there's all different kind of assets that are here. One, there's the buildings themselves that are drawn. There's the water moving. There's the tree moving. There's my character's bow, this. So when you get into scenes that have lots of different items, the performance can go down and slaggy, or it takes a while to load into it. In some scenes, here the transition are pretty good. If I go into the town to live in, I think that the performance time to load in there takes a little bit longer. Is it a drag? Yes. Is it something that's affecting gameplay? Yes. Because when I look at how I want to move around in the game, I don't look for what's the most direct and fastest route to get there. I look for part of that calculation, or a majority of the calculation, is how can I do the least amount of zoning loads. So on one hand, I like the idea of the zones. On the other hand, I don't like the idea because of the time for it. And they know it. They hear it every time. They've acknowledged it. In fact, they acknowledged it 2 days ago, sitting on one of the recent telethons on their Starlong. That actually was asked. They were asked the general question: what would be the best feature for you to see be added into the game? And he basically claimed it unsexy and said, I really would like performance to be better. So that is a big piece that they're doing. Have they improved it? Yes. Is there a way to go? Yes. It's not because you're CPU bound. It's not because you're GPU bound on this. It's not because you have spinning disks as opposed to SSDs and stuff. it really gets down to there are some mechanics in the game to support what they're doing with it, and they've got to look at how to address that. In player housings, that's another big one. If you think of a house, like in Ultima, I put up a chair, put up a table, put up this, a forge, a plant, this and that. In here, you can get really detailed. I make a couch, I make my crafting tables. I'm gonna put a bookshelf. I'm gonna put books in every one of the shelves, and I'm gonna put trophies on the wall and banners and lights, and put my vendors and my pets and my rugs, and I'm gonna have a table that's huge. I actually do have a big knight's table, 8 settings around it with all the cups and goblets and food. Every one of those things is an object in the game, and when you think about lighting and shadowing, shading, and all that kind of stuff, it gets calculated into the equation, which causes performance hit. It's plain and simple. The more objects you have to do calculations on, the more of a hit it's going to take. So they have to either or both find a way to improve the calculations so that that stuff is rendering quicker, and or look at how the ways to reduce the number of objects. If everybody's putting bookcases in their house filled with books, well, then generate a bookcase that actually has pre-stocked books in there and have it as one object as opposed to multiple objects in there. It's things like that they have to go through. There's a lot of trickery. They've done a lot of trickery to get it to be functioning well enough that we're happy, as in we're existing, we're okay. But those trickeries are going to have to go at some point. They limit the number of light sources you can have outside and inside the house. So depending on the size of your house, if you have a smaller house, you have fewer light sources outside, or fewer number of items you can have in the house. So you can't just get the smallest house and put the bazillion things in it. So the bigger the house you have, the more of those things you can have. In some of the towns that had a lot of rich characters and stuff, like in Arteris, there's a bunch of NPCs, which are all objects. They pulled some of the NPCs out to help negate some of the really, really lagginess. And it's not just load time. Sometimes you could feel it when you're seeing it. You could feel the stuttering on it going, yeah, that's not a good area. If I look at it right now, and I'll bring this up, there's a debug command. It'll tell you the frame rate I'm getting up there, and it's at 30-ish frames per second. Inside the game, that's actually really good at this point, because there are points you're sitting down around 9, 10 in certain areas, a really heavy area. So this outside scene has been more optimized than the other ones out there, even regardless of all the stuff that's here. Oh, a little skeleton popped up again. Anyways, so yeah. So the performance is something that has to be dealt with, and as a backer, I'm expecting some pretty big strides coming here in the lead up to full release and final release of episode 1. It's one of those things that if you come out into the market after that much time with that kind of performance problems, basic performance problems, 30 frames per second is crappy. And that doesn't matter. Even if you go and drop your settings down, you maybe get a small bump, but it's not like if I go down from fanciest down to okay settings and I'm going to be at 60 frames per second. That's not it. If they come out in the market with it as it is right now, they're gonna take a beating on it. It's okay. I know it will improve over time. I think it has to have some remarked improvements between now and the release. But that's probably one of the colder or harder facts that are out there for the game, I think, out there. So otherwise performance, otherwise character animation, all that seem fine. You get some glitches here and there, which is okay. But if I look at it like here, I'm gonna go back to this. Your skeleton will pop up. Hello, I'll shoot you. That's a pretty good animation on how that guy came up and how he hits with his sword, blood splatters, and his different attacks. You see, I kind of shot him there, left some blood. Different sounds for different kinds of spells. Oh, that one's because he rocked me with a very heavy hit, so I'm kind of stunned for a bit. I like this stone arrow. It gives you kind of a stone arrow effect, like little stones breaking up. Oh, see, he hit me again. And I'll do one more shot. Should take care of him. There he is. Oh, and he's down. So, yeah, I said, performance-wise, it goes through. It's pretty good. You can tell when things get glitchy. If you get a lot of players in an area, it gets glitchy. They tried to have a PvP tournament at one point. Had a bunch of people coming in. a lot of people, yeah, it got unusable at some points of that. So yeah, they've got some work to do on that. It's not released, so this is still considered early access, which is fine. So they get a pass on that for now. But honestly, if it comes out release date and we're still having this, I'll flat out say it. You know, that's just that's something that just isn't generally acceptable with it. And I think new players that haven't played the game before, once they go release, are going to say the same thing. Wait, you took 4 years, and I'm in a pretty static scene from the outlook on here, and I get 30 frames per second, or I can't have more than 20 people together, or it gets laggy. You know, they're gonna complain about it. I think that's the honest side of it. I think that's a fair assessment of it, at least from my seat. So, okay, so let's call that part one here, because I think the graphics and performance really roll together. And when I get into the PvE, PvP, and I'll probably do PvE, PvP in one part, and then I'll get into the crafting, the economy as another part, and social housing and the other parts on there. I think that'll work out. But I think putting those three together really help out with it. So if you got questions or comments, you know, throw them on the video. Thumbs up, thumbs down. It's Elaina Strongbow from SortedTutorials.com. Also, if you're finding me in the game, please go ahead and, you know, you can find me in the game. It is Elaina Strongbow. I'm on Twitch, Elaina Strongbow, all one word. YouTube, the same thing. That's the channel that's on here. Yeah, reach out. I'm glad to hear from you. Glad to hear feedback on it. You got a question on it, I'm there to answer it on there. But I thought it was time to finally put a fair review out from my standpoint, given the amount of time and where we're at in the development cycle. We're coming up on the release, so that was it. At the end here will be a link to the previous video that's in the tutorial series. There'll be a link to the website below that, what I've been doing, what I will be doing. Picture me in the fairy wings. Click on that if you want to subscribe to the channel if you're liking the content. That's it. Take care. Have a good one.